Very interesting topic. Um, and this is our second webinar. So I am actually inviting Dr. Ledford, Alicia Ledford, for moderating the session. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm hoping that I'm coming through okay, but please let me know if there are any issues with my connection so that I can turn it over to Dauncey. But we wanted to first just thank you again for being here. We are so excited about our guest speakers, whom I'm going to introduce in just a moment. But I also wanted to encourage you all. If you have not registered for the upcoming SNRS uh, annual meeting, then we would love to encourage you all to do that. There should be there you go. And on the slide deck, you should be able to see that. So yes, we invite you to join us in Austin, Texas for the 40th annual conference. It's February 18th through the 20th. So please, if you've not registered, you can scan that QR code there and register. So back to our speakers, we have with us today Dr. Tyra Girdwood, who is an assistant professor at the University of Tennessee Health Science Center in the College of Nursing within the Department of Community and Population Health. Dr. Girdwood received her BSN degree from the University of North Carolina at Wilmington and her PhD in nursing science at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, where she was a Robert Wood Johnson Foundation Future of Nursing Scholar. And she received her postdoctoral training in health equity and health policy in the National Clinician Scholars Program at Duke University. Some of her research interests include healthcare transitions, care coordination and transition management, chronic conditions, adolescents and young adults, health policy, healthcare transformation, artificial intelligence, as well as rural health. Dr. Lydia Manaconda joins us as an assistant professor in the Lally School of Management at RPI. Her interdisciplinary research develops goal-centric AI models that learn and reason with complex, real-world, unstructured data drawn from social media and other publicly available online web sources. Her work emphasizes building AI systems with metacognitive abilities while accounting for critical human factors by addressing algorithmic and psychological challenges associated with over-reliance on online platforms and the constant digital engagement. She earned a BTech and an MS in Computer Science and Engineering from the International Institute of Information Technology in Hyderabad and a PhD in Computer Science from Arizona State University. Thank you both so much for leading us in this webinar and for your expertise that you're going to be sharing with us. So with that said, I'm going to stop sharing and turn this over to Dr. Goodwood.
Thank you, Elijah, for that really nice introduction. I feel like I never know who Dr. Girdwood is. I know Tyra. So let's see. I'm gonna attempt to share my screen, and you just tell me if you see the good version. So let's see. Okay, so I'm gonna put this in presenter view. Can you still see do you see my notes or do you see the presentation? You see the presentation? Oh, perfect.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's get this started. Hi, everyone. I'm excited to talk about ethical considerations using AI in qualitative research. So this is an emerging field, so I might not have all the answers. Oh, where did my screen go? Here it is. Oh, no. Here I am. Okay. I might not have all the answers, but we will be presenting on what we know so far. So, we all know these wonderful baseline ethical considerations for qualitative research. We all have these similar concepts of informed consent, confidentiality, avoiding harm, transparency, respect for diversity, equity and power balance, and reflexivity. So, these baseline ethical considerations. So now we bring in artificial intelligence, which is a new and exciting world. But how do we deal with ethical considerations with this new innovation? So we have AI specific ethical considerations we need to discuss and talk about. So for this, I thought I'd bring in some qualitative word clouds. So in word cloud, it was generated by AI. And you will see concerns with AI in our research, our qualitative research, such as data protection issues, lack of AI-specific frameworks and policies, lack of explainability, lack of diverse data, accountability issues, among others. So these are just some of the early considerations we need to think about when we want to incorporate AI in our qualitative work. So let's go over some of the big picture considerations. Ethical and legal breaches. So this is a huge thing with AI that I did not realize when I first heard about it. All data that is presented to AI should be de-identified. So AI platforms are open to anyone in the world, so there is this potential identification participants. So if you're interested in AI uploading data, what have you, this needs to be fully de-identified. Another concern, accurate, biased, or fabricated content made by AI. Lack of accountability if AI gets it wrong. Is it the researcher's fault, the AI, the platform, the company? Whose fault is it? And we need to think about whether using AI undermines our credibility as researchers and practitioners, especially in our scholarly writing. With data collection, AI can collect interview data for us, which is quite nice. But we need to think about whether the back and forth that we get from active interviewing may be diminished, and the data may not be as rich as with a human interviewer who is skilled in this work. So with data transcription questions, how appropriate is it for raw interview responses that we get from our participants who expect us to be protected? How appropriate is it for us to input it into an AI platform, which will learn from the data, and use it to analyze other AI transcripts in the future? And how do participants expect their data to be used and protected? What are we putting in our consent form? Hey, we're going to use AI for this purpose, for this reason. These could be the potential outcomes or risks. I think these are things we need to discuss more. Okay. And so if we're wanting to use AI in our data analysis process, we need to think about quite a few things. So lack of transparency in AI outputs, consistency and accuracy in our AI performance and outputs, user difficulty prompts. It can sometimes be hard to sort of tell AI, this is what I want, and for it to understand what you want. And incorrect usage of AI, knowledge of capabilities. There's so many capabilities. And also the cost of reviewing results with programs like ChatGPT. If you want them to analyze your data, it's a lot of money. So that might not be feasible for someone without funding or in a area that's under-resourced. A big, big issue is AI systems disproportionately represent perspectives of white individuals and middle to high socioeconomic status individuals. So there could be quite a bit of potential bias going into findings and results of your work. So that has to be in your mind and discussed amongst your co-authors. An attribution of intellectual contributions. Who are we saying did this work? Transparency in processes bias, like we discussed. But these all need to be discussed within your qualitative teams. Okay. Big, big question. Can AI truly understand qualitative data the way that we do? Qualitative data, we have multiple multiple people looking at this data, talking about it, discussing it, setting with conceptual frameworks, actively generating new themes or theories. It's very nuanced, it's actual, it's human-centered. Does AI know how to do that? This is a question we need to discuss. So AI programs like Canvas, it can be helpful for researchers who have trouble creating visual diagrams or figures. It can create AI replicas of original images to keep participants anonymous. So if you look on the left side, I into Shutterstock, which is an AI generating platform. Wanted a nurse scientist conducting interviews, and you see this is the that it created. So it's fake people, which is fun. But you see it did all of the images that it gave me were people of white race back. There was no diversity that it provided in terms of this image. So that's something we need to think about when we're wanting to maybe use AI replicas. We need to think about data privacy. We may need to use general descriptions in the prompt making process to keep participants anonymous. In communication, I might not fully understand everything that we're trying to ask it. Has limits in the details that it. So I was writing an AI framework. Sort of like a commentary piece, and I wanted my AI program to design a nice figure of framework that I was creating. It kept misspelling words, and no matter how I put in, hey, please don't misspell this word, it kept doing it. It was just overloaded. It couldn't understand how to process that. So this is something we need to work and talk about as well.
Ira, may I pause you just one moment?
Yes, of
Folks,
course.
yeah, this, I apologize. I am seeing in the chat some folks saying that the audio is a little bit choppy. And so I would just say if you all don't mind switching turning off your video, we'll go ahead and see if that helps with the audio piece. So if folks don't mind just turning off their video for while the presenters are speaking, I think that may help overall. I apologize. Please continue, Dr. Girdwood.
No, you're fine. Is this better? Is it maybe I'm too far away from my little mic.
No, your
Um,
mic is fine. I think the volume is fine. I think it's just it's been a little bit choppy. So I know sometimes when we turn off videos that helps. So we'll see if that
oh
makes a
sure.
difference.
Like the perfect. Okay, perfect. Well, you stop me if I get super choppy. Um, so this with preparation of manuscripts, I think this is the biggest one of the biggest areas of confusion that I've come across with other researchers or practitioners. How and when is it appropriate to use AI in the preparation of manuscripts? So, Professor Norman at Duke, she suggested 5 big tips. Do not list AI as one of your co-authors. And ensure content and references are accurate. There's these things called hallucinations that AI can create, where it's fake people, fake citations, references, fake papers. So you have to really look at your reference list and see if these are all correct and real people. Checking for biases, like we discussed. AI has significant gender and racial bias against women in the Black community. This is a big problem. We have to look more into this, discuss it. How do we fix it? And ensure content generated from an AI tool is not plagiarized. And disclose how and where AI tools were used in the preparation of your manuscript. And always remember, AI tools, methods, and models are only as good as the data that's put into them to train them. So if we're putting in bad data, we're going to get bad results and bad outcomes. So how can we start being more ethical when using AI in our qualitative work? Introduce it with a clear and purposeful objective. Why do we need AI in this work? Develop AI-specific frameworks that utilize human-centered design and the nursing code of ethics. So that paper I mentioned is under review, hopefully out in a couple months. We'll see. We talk about how we can design and use an AI-specific framework with these principles. And we want to provide transparent explanations of how AI in your work, especially in the writing process. And one thing to look at is the journal rules. If you're wanting to publish your work, look at the that you're interested in. Are they saying you can use AI for this part of the preparation process? Are they saying no AI at all? That is something we have to now look at and understand the rules. And engage in community co-design of AI governance and practices. We have to get all these different opinions and try and get a consensus of what is the right way to do AI in qualitative work. And we need not just nursing, we have to branch out into different disciplines and community partners and industry partners to try and understand what the best practice is. And we need to monitor and evaluate AI tools. And what is the societal impact of AI, using AI in our work? Um, these are questions we need to continuously discuss. And our academic curricula, we need to input in our qualitative courses. How does AI impact our work? How do we ethically consider it? What's next? These are all important pieces that we need to look at. And so here is the list of key references that were used in this presentation. There's not a lot of articles out there right now. So you'll see on here, all of these articles are either published in 2024 or 2025. So it's very emerging. But these are really, really helpful articles if you're interested. And if you go back, I'll send out these slides to Alasia and the team. You'll see at the bottom which reference was referenced on that slide. So that could be helpful when you review this. The questions for later, we'll do that at the end. So I think I will turn it over to Alasia or Lydia to go to the next wonderful presentation.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Girdwood. We really appreciate your insight in this and just the appreciation of such an emerging field. Thank you so much. We're going to now turn it over to Dr. Manakonda, who will share her screen and share with us some of her insights.
Um, okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, just put it on the presenter mode. Oh, yeah.
So I'm actually going to share my entire screen because I would like to show a quick demo. But thank you so much. This is a great venue, and essentially, I think the transition flows really well. Thank you for a great talk, Dr. Gerwood. So I am going to present mostly about my experiences and life lessons. And I just want to start the talk with this as the setting the tone. So I have all my degrees in computer science, and you might be wondering, why am I here? Much of my research is actually interdisciplinary, and I focus mainly on building applied machine learning and AI technologies for non-computer science domains. So much of my research has been focusing on different aspects of public health, finance, and including in the finance, I focus mostly on medical crowdfunding. And I also work on core AI related applications. So essentially evaluating these black box models, how do you write prompts and how do you interact with these systems and what are the different privacy challenges and so on. And like I said, even though my training has been in computer science, but I am actually in management school because of the kind of interdisciplinary research that I focus on. And ever since I joined RPI as an assistant professor, I have been teaching AI, machine learning, and data analytics coursework to primarily non-computer science students. And many of my students happen to be from biomedical engineering and physics, math, and so on. So that's why, and also my collaborations um, with a lot of faculty and researchers who are not in CS. So that's why I'm here, and I'm very excited to share my lessons and experiences in terms of how do we safely utilize and leverage these state-of-the-art approaches to something like medical domain or clinical domain, where these algorithms and these systems are really developed mainly for addressing computer science problems, but now we are taking these systems and using them for pretty much every domain that we have in our real world scenarios. Also, please stop me if I'm not clear or if there is any concern. So I would appreciate that as well. So I would like to start with the types of data that I focus on. So I'm sure all of us know that there is numerical data and categorical data. So categorical data, which is typically natural language text and so on. So we use numerical data for predictive modeling. So for example, building machine learning models or AI models. And then whereas categorical data, we kind of not just use them for predictions, but you try to analyze that. So for example, thematic analysis or coding in terms of understanding user preferences or patient experiences and so on. And much of my data actually comes from social media platforms or online web. So this talk I actually curated from that perspective. And also I do some of the research that includes user surveys, but that's very little to minimal. And one of the reasons why I see as a computer scientist that these systems are taking off and pretty much used in every domain in the current real world scenarios is because these are actually becoming more and more cheaper, faster, and typically there is no wastage of time in terms of carefully curating the data and carefully analyzing the data. So similar to when we are actually looking at categorical data and so on. So I will start with one particular example. So like I said, there are two types of data sets that I typically use. And one of these data sets, let's say, is natural language text. So for example, many of you may have patient records, EHRs, and so on. So how can you use certain kinds of AI approaches on these things to identify, let's say, different themes? So something called topic modeling is very useful. So where essentially these are automated approaches where you typically use these, where you send this text as the input into these models, and then you can generate the topics with actually different types of keywords, and these agglomeration of these keywords will create some sort of a theme or a topic. And this example that I'm showing you is actually in the few years back, we started this project where we want to understand how Instagram actually has or allows posts from individuals who are actually talking about different types of mental health related scenarios. So we actually worked, this project is in collaboration with Emory University in Atlanta. And essentially, we crawled different social media posts from Instagram and by using the hashtags. And we were trying to investigate how do individuals using these particular hashtags, what exactly are they communicating? Because I'm sure all of you know that, I mean, there's both pros and cons in terms of how social media platforms have been used in the current day and age. But at the same time, there is a lot of positivity in terms of bringing users together, especially in terms of vulnerable topics or stigmatized topics. People are able to connect with each other. And one of the reasons is people can be honest on these platforms because they can actually hide their true identity. So that is one of the main reasons why we were actually looking at these kinds of platforms to understand why do people actually post these kinds of self-harm or anorexia or some sort of these very sensitive and vulnerable topics, but also at the same time, why are what should these companies like these social media platforms should learn from this? Because there have been different efforts in terms of banning certain kinds of hashtags, but I think uh, one has to tread these things very carefully because, of course, there's a lot of negativity, but also, so for many individuals going through these kinds of aspects, these are the channels where people are actually able to express their emotions and get support from each other. So coming back to the main topic, which is the topic modeling, we can actually use these approaches where you input the text into this approach or the black box model, and then it actually generates different themes or coding. Essentially, it can do a lot of these related aspects. And they rely on very thoroughly investigated statistical models. And also, currently there are a lot of transformer-based models and so on. And then the second one I want to talk about is sentiment analysis. So for example, I'm sure many of us, if we go to a new restaurant or if we want to go to a new hospital, we want to check what kinds of reviews people post. So essentially, reviews are something where it's kind of like the categorical data, where natural language text, but we don't have the luxury to sit and go through every set of reviews. So can we actually use these reviews? So in this context, the data set that we are looking at is, again, we are trying to understand these novel AI agents or these apps that are actually are something like the buddy or friend kinds of bots that are where, so for example, this is a character AI app. I'm not sure many of you know this. This app actually, it allows you to create your own version. So it's kind of like you can create a friend and you can actually interact with this friend. So we were actually asking the question, how are these kinds of agentic AI apps influencing individuals' mental health? Because we see that more and more people are using AI, generative AI technologies in their lives. And in many instances, unfortunately, people are getting addicted to that. So it's kind of like a new set of challenges that we have to deal with. So how can we actually take the user reviews and understand how these AI or agentic AI apps are actually influencing our mental health? And in that context, so we use transformer-based models. So essentially, if you look at ChatGPT or Gemini, Perplexity, all these models actually were constructed on the framework of this transformer model. Again, I'm not going to go into all these details. So this is the building block of these neural networks that are actually able to, um, are being used behind the scenes for many of these systems. And the good thing with these is they actually have some sort of a memory. They can actually converse with you very well, very fast, all these things. So we used a similar kind of approach to essentially understand like what are the kinds of sentiments that are there in the user reviews through the natural language text. As you can see, typically people rate these apps on Google Play on a scale of 1 star to 5 star, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. It's interesting to see there are a lot of negative sentiments associated with reviews which received stars from 1 to 4, whereas for 5 stars, we see a lot of positive sentiment associated with them. So then the question is, why am I looking at sentiments and what can I learn from these? So translating this to, let's say, in the hospital or clinical setting, let's say people share their experiences and, there are these EHRs, and how can you actually use these to understand whether, let's say, our clinic, let's say I'm working at a clinic, is actually better serving our patients, or where am I actually need to improve, or what are my positive aspects that we are actually providing to our patients, and where should we improve, and so on. So there are a lot of applications that one can use with the sentiment analysis and so on. But I want to give a very quick overall process in terms of how we build these systems. So, for example, if you take ChatGPT or any Gemini or Claude or whatever the generative AI system that you are taking, so typically they follow certain kinds of process. I'm sure all of you are well aware of these things. So where we first design the research question or questions, and then we primarily collect the data, and then you pre-process the data, do all sorts of cleaning, so that this data that you're actually going to use for training this model, which could be, it's kind of like us when we were babies, we learned from our environment. We actually mimicked our parents or friends or peers, whoever are there in our environment, and then we slowly improved our understanding of the world. So essentially, this entire system of these GPT models or the generative AI models, their goal is actually to think like humans, mimic like humans, reason like humans. And unfortunately, again, it's just my opinion. I don't think we are there, even though they say that they can reason well, but I mean, they don't reason very well. So the kinds of, again, I think Dr. Garwood actually touched on this. So essentially, these models behave exactly like the training data that has been used to train these models. So essentially, it's kind of like me as an individual, depending on my background, depending on my experiences, I actually think in the same manner. So it's kind of like the same thing. But of course, we as humans have this innate ability to actually think out of the box. So where right now AI scientists and AI researchers are trying to run towards this race of AGI, I'm sure many of you heard artificial general intelligence, where the goal is actually to reach the level where these models and machines can perform as well as us as humans. But of course, we all agree that there are a lot of challenges, there are a lot of problems, and that's where I'm going to start talk about in the next few slides. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with these state-of-the-art GPT models like ChatGPT, Gemini, which are some of the popular models, and there are lots and lots of them. And in fact, I actually generated these images from these two models. So I asked Google Gemini, okay, I am giving a talk. I want to generate the future of nursing in the context of AI, like where humans and nurses are actually, nurse and AI are actually working together. So the left side image is generated by Gemini and the right side image is generated by ChatGPT. It's actually very interesting to see these images because, again, you don't have to know this, but ChatGPT actually has been trained on pretty much the entire data that is there on the web that's actually publicly available. So there are a lot of ethical issues there. I'm not going to talk much about that. So one has to be very cautious in terms of how do we use these systems now. So for example, Google Gemini, I'm sure many of us use Android phones. So Google has a lot of access to our data sets. I mean, again, I'm not jumping into the ethics and privacy issues there. So they are using these data sets in some way or the other to actually build these systems and use these systems for many applications. So now comes the challenge. How are we going to use these systems in our own domains in a much more ethically correct manner, and also in the way that these systems can actually perform in a robust manner? Because we as humans, we have very good reasoning capabilities, whereas these systems have actually very good computational abilities. So our focus, I mean, again, I'll talk about this at the end, but there is this important component of humans and the systems working together in a collaborative way. And I think that is the future, which we should actually aim to. So I'll give a very simple example. So I'm sure many of us interacted with these systems. So essentially, you interact with them either through talking, like voice, or typically through text. So you write something. And so one of the research problems that I'm working on is how do these systems respond in an empathetic way? So for example, I actually took 5 different prompts. So first prompt, I give an image. saying that, okay, respond to this particular user's message, let's say, for example. And then in the next prompt, I'm going to say respond empathetically. So as you can see, as I'm progressing from 1 to 5, I'm kind of guiding this AI system to behave in a particular way so that the output that the system is generating is actually more robust and appropriate. So, but at the same time, I mean, many of the domains that we have, for example, medical domain, how do we train our younger, like more up and coming students and our existing faculty, researchers, and everyone in terms of how to learn this prompt? So this is entirely considered as prompt engineering. So learning these, how to write these prompts actually will play a key role in terms of how best the results that we are getting. So that is a very important thing. So writing a not appropriate prompt may actually lead to wrong results. So that may actually lead to wrong outputs and insights that you're actually maybe seeing in your research studies. So that is something that you have to keep in mind. So prompt is a very important thing. I'm going to give a very quick demo. So there is this free software. I mean, I don't know if I call that free, but it's called as Notebook LM. And I thought this is actually very interesting. So I took drug data set where patients were actually talking about their experiences in terms of they take a particular drug and what are the kinds of symptoms or different aspects that they are seeing after taking that drug. So you all can actually use this. So this is called Notebook LM, and it's actually provided by Google. So if you search for Notebook LM Google, you can actually find it. But again, I'm just sharing this because it can actually, I just want to show you all how you can actually work with categorical or the natural language text. So you click on the create notebook, and here I already copied the text. So I'm just going to copy this text, and I'm just going to insert this. And now you can actually ask the system all sorts of interesting things. So for example, you can create a mind map. You can create, the coolest thing with this particular platform is you can create a podcast, which is, I love it. Let's say I am in a crunch of time and I don't have time to read paper, like a research paper. I usually use the system, upload the paper, and I generate the audio, and it generates some sort of a podcast, which is actually fascinating. I would highly encourage all of you to try it. So now, let's say I ask something like what kinds of diseases are these are included text. So as you can see, it is going to generate a set of diseases that are there. So you don't have to sit and code everything. Again, like I said, we have to exercise caution here. So, but as you can see, it is actually able to generate the different kinds of diseases or conditions that people are actually talking about in this particular text. So, and then maybe you can ask, let's say, can you identify or compute, let's say, sentiment values on a scale of, let's say, 0 to 1, and it should be able to generate sentiment values and so on. So, so as you can see, positive sentiment is expressed this thing. I think I need to change my prompt. So when I say prompt is something where I'm actually typing this text into this particular system. So there are 3 types of sentiment: positive, negative, and neutral. And we can also curate this and modify this and so on. But again, like I said, there is audio. You can also create video overviews. So for example, these mind maps. So for example, it actually is giving some sort of a very concise summary. So for example, they are talking about hypertension and different indications that this particular text is talking about. What are the adverse effects that are being reported from this text? As you can see, there are these different aspects and so on. So like I mean, as you all are aware of this, these systems are very useful, but there's a strong condition here. So however, we have to be very cautious in terms of how we are going to use these systems, like Dr. Girdwood actually talked about in the past few minutes. So I asked Google Gemini, actually, I didn't use ChatGPT. Can you generate face of 6 pretty women? And it actually gave me this as the output. And I see that, oh, it's nice that it's actually including diversity and different aspects. But if I carefully observe these pictures, I see that all of these are nicely, airbrushed and very well makeup is on and all sorts of things. But in reality, how do we define prettiness? I mean, again, please don't take this in any way, but I was just trying to look for different answers. And prettiness is actually something very personal and very opinionated. So I want all of us to understand that users actually don't behave like data sets, because as we know, these systems are built using specific sets of very nicely curated data sets. But in reality, we all are different, we all are unique, and humans come with a lot of complex issues. So there is no one solution for all of us. So that's a very big thing that I really want to emphasize, that when we are leveraging these kinds of systems in very sensitive domains, we have to exercise caution. And again, trigger warning, if you don't want to join this next slide, I would encourage you guys to, either step aside for a minute, but I want to bring this right now. So there was this recent New York Times article in terms of how a particular teen actually committed suicide. And in fact, ChatGPT helped him commit suicide. And the reason why this is actually in the news is because the teenager's parents are actually now in the court and arguing that ChatGPT is the reason why their son actually is not here anymore. And in fact, if you're interested, I think this article is available online publicly, and it's just heartbreaking. And the way that the teenager communicated with ChatGPT, actually, ChatGPT was telling the teenager to make knots in such a way that it can actually help him commit suicide, which is shocking. So again, understanding the context is very important, and that's where we humans are very adaptable, and we know the context and we know how to behave in an appropriate manner. However, these systems do not know. So they think that, I'm sure many of us actually experience this, where we talk to ChatGPT and we say that, oh, this is actually the answer that you gave is not correct. Even though it's correct, it actually comes back and says, oh yeah, you are right, let me change this. So there is this notion of the system behave in a polite manner, but where do we draw the line of this politeness, or where do we draw the line where the systems are not going to harm us and harm our communities, and rather help our communities? So that's where I think I'm going to end my talk by saying that the data actually lives and changes. And as researchers, we have to exercise caution when we are actually using these tools for different qualitative or quantitative research by using different types of data. And I would highly encourage that instead of looking at this systems as tools, but as a facilitator, where we both can actually work together, like the AI system and the human. And the concept of human is actually very important. And I think we should not forget that these systems are actually for us as humans to improve our lives. It's not the other way around. And also prioritizing upskilling in terms of critically assessing the AI output. So not just believing whatever the output is, but exercising some sort of critical assessment in terms of whether this output is actually making sense or not. Is this correct in the scenario that I'm actually using these systems, and so on. And the fourth lesson that I'm learning is the best AI isn't just built, it's actually lived, learned, and iterated with humans in the loop. And especially for all of you as trained medical and clinical experts, leveraging these AI systems, not just for qualitative research or quantitative research, but you are actually the deployers of culture, responsibility, and intelligence. And so with this, I'm actually going to say thank you for this time, and I'm happy to take any questions. And if you are interested, you can reach out to me, and I'm happy to share my slides. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your insights and just kind of taking us through examples and how to apply AI to our work. So at this point, we're going to open it up for folks to ask questions, you're more than welcome to put questions in the chat and we will bring those up. But you're also more than welcome to, yes, raise your hands or come off mute and share your questions.
Thank you so much. Both the speakers were really amazing, and you guys brought up some really good insights from AI. I have two questions, and probably to both the speakers. First is regarding the qualitative data analysis. When you have this entire transcription of your data or an audio recording of your data, is it, I've been kind of struggling with it, is it ethical for us to kind of upload it onto a system which is internet-based, and we don't know how that can be later used? Like, I don't know if they're going to use this to train their models, they'll put it out publicly. Like, as much as I try and put those filters in, I'm still not comfortable whether or not to put that data up, because it can contain some sensitive information, as we all practice in our fields. And my second question is, when we are like the kind of way that it was said, using it as an assistant or as a, something to help you come up with your answers. I'm so much in tune of using ChatGPT and other large language models to help me write my codes, to kind of, go back and forth or polish my manuscript. But then, is it okay for us to kind of upload our data to say, okay, can you do this analysis for me, instead of asking it to write the code, me pasting it in my, again, the whole issue around privacy is an issue. And then when you're writing manuscript, a lot of journals now say it's okay to use it for language polishing as long as you retain your ideas, or you're not using it to generate images. When you're using it to improve the language and you put it in AI detector, it oftentimes comes back saying it's all AI written. Whereas it's like, no, these are my ideas. I did that. But then because, that fine line between what was done by human and what was done by AI. And then many times it's like, can you just say, where did you use it? Like, I cannot say that. So how do you respond to those questions?
So I can answer this first. So as a computer scientist, honestly, again, I just find it very concerning that we are jumping onto this bandwagon without thinking through the repercussions and a lot of loopholes. So for example, there are these things called jailbreaking, because we may think that, oh, my data is safe, but actually, no, your data is not safe. So to answer your question, I would never put I personally don't do that, because I don't think that's ethical to especially use the data that we have and upload this on these systems. So typically what I do is, okay, I don't know if I should say that, but I'm very well versed with these applications. So I just run these things on my machine, which actually perform very similarly using the code. And so that way I don't have to interact with these systems. This code actually is running on my machine and it's just gonna disappear. And only part that I have at the end is only the insights at an aggregated level. So that way I don't have to jeopardize my data set, and also at the same time. So one thing I can suggest is you can maybe ask the system to write a code, let's say a Python code, and you can actually run that Python code on your system, or an R code on your system, and where it doesn't have to upload your data on the server. And there are ways we can actually navigate through these things, but I am really cautious, especially when it comes to, doesn't matter even if it is a social media data that I'm collecting and it's publicly available, but still, I think we as researchers have to uphold these high standards again. So I would encourage not to upload the data, but maybe we can actually think about other ways where we can actually run this code on your local systems or local machines. That could be something. I mean, I'll let Dr. Gerd would actually respond.
I think that was a perfect answer. I agree with everything that you mentioned. I would not upload my data even if it's fully de-identified. There's something about just that preciousness of your data and the people that provided it to you, and they're entrusting you to keep that safe. I agree. I would not upload it to AI for any reason. Um, and so you also mentioned the AI checkers. Yes, huge caution checkers. They do not accurately find difference between AI written and human written. Definitely take caution in those checkers, especially in academia. I've heard a lot of my fellow faculty members have been using, AI checkers to make sure that their students aren't using AI to write their papers. I think there's a lot of ethical issues that it could come up from that if you say, "Hey, you get an F because my AI checker said it's 100% AI written," but that could not be true. There could be issues in that checking system. And NIH, I think, believe they've said that they're using AI checkers on grant proposals now. Interesting. We'll see how that goes. But I think Lydia, Dr. Manakonda, wonderful answers. I have really nothing else to include there. She was perfect answer.
I wish I have more time to talk. So there is a whole aspect of jailbreaking. So where um, I I don't know if I have that example. I wish I actually used it. So one of my students, he's actually going to a company for his summer internship, and he actually asked ChatGPT, I am interviewing for this company. Can you recommend some interview questions for me to prepare? And actually, it gave some confidential documents which were not supposed to be released out in public. And he was able to see that. And when he went for his internship, he actually told them that I think mistakenly somebody might have uploaded this. We don't know how it happened. So there are these data leakage issues. And I think no matter, I mean, as long as we are connected with internet, I think connected to the internet, I think there are these issues that come up again and again. I think that's why we have to be very cautious. Again, I hate to be a computer scientist and talk like this, but at the same time, unfortunately, we are living in this kind of a fuzzy world. More and more, we don't have proper policies, guardrails in terms of how to leverage these systems. Yeah, all sorts of things that can happen. So
I see. You're muted.
It's nice to see you. But so my not fairly limited use of AI has been in the context of a program for assisting in qualitative analysis, Max QDA. And it has now an AI assist function. And I wonder if you could do you see the issues as the same? Because in that case, it seems to me that your use of AI assist is in the context of a whole analysis, either qualitative or mixed methods analysis that you're doing. You've pulled in your transcripts or whatever your sources of data are. And anyway, I guess I was just interested in your take in using these software programs such as NVivo and MaxQDA that have AI assist functions.
Have you used the AI assist, Dr. Manakonda? in any of these programs? If not,
Unfortunately, no. I primarily use these because I'm well versed with these algorithms. So I just use them on my end. And I try to also use APIs. So I'm not exactly sure how to answer this, but
Yeah, I just wondered if it mitigated some of the possibly mitigated some of the the ethical issues you were talking about
I
we're
Mhm.
talking about because it is I mean the programs don't analyze your data, they support
Right.
your analysis, and that's one of the ways um, that might contribute to supporting it.
I saw some of the companies providing these AI or assistants chatbots. They actually have these documentations sharing that they use layers and layers of protection. So I am not exactly sure, but I think as the company is providing these tools, I'm assume that they actually are trying to use these safeguarding measures to prevent these kinds of data leakage. Doctor, I'm not exactly sure how to
Mm,
answer that.
okay,
That's a
thank
good
you.
question.
So I have a comment and a quick question for you. First, for the comment, I worked for the last 15 years as a federal contractor, and those AI support functions, we weren't allowed to use them for PHI because of the risk of that information being leaked into the AI training system. So I don't trust anything that's connected to the internet, period. And the government doesn't either. And I was held to that when I was working on government projects. So now the question I have for both of you is your presentation for the most part has covered generative AI, large language models. What other aspects of AI are you working in? I've got some projects going on in computer vision and deep learning as well, which are not large language models. And I'd like to ask, what aspects of it you're using and in what ways?
Um, Go ahead, Dr. Good, if you want.
well, mine's a quick answer. I'm not. I'm not. I would love to actually hear. We don't have time, but I would love to connect with you and hear how you're using those systems. I would be very interested in hearing your work.
Thank you. Yeah, it would be my honor. And so in computer vision, I primarily use these systems for looking at emotions of the content that is there in the image, specifically for vision related applications. So does that answer your question, Dr. Roberts?
Yes, it does. Thank you. And I just put my email into the chat if you want to reach out to me to talk about some of the work I've been doing.
So I believe we are just about at time. I just want to say again, thank you all so much for coming. Thank you for your questions and your participation and engagement during the webinar. This recording will be, I believe, available on SNRS's website. And I believe that our speakers have put their emails in the chat, so feel free to reach out to them. Dauncey, do you have anything else to add?
No, thank you all for joining, and we had really a wonderful presentation. And thank you, Dr. Manikonda and Dr. Gerber, for your wonderful presentation. And thank you all, the audience, for staying. We knew this was an interesting topic, so we are glad we could arrange one. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.